Oh, it's a lovely dish. So growing up, it's one of the things that I remember the most about Italian Christmas is so the bagna cauta's hot bath. It's basically butter, oil, and garlic, and it's kind of like fondue. With that's your dip, and you have things like pieces of bread and lettuce and vegetables, and you dip it. You kind of all gather around the table and dip it into this butter garlic goodness.
Welcome to 33 Tangents, a weekly podcast featuring a rotating panel of co-hosts that all work together in the same company but live in different areas of the world. The discussions cover a wide variety of topics from digital analytics to working remotely to current happenings in business and technology. Our regular day-to-day conversations often go off in various directions, and the goal of this podcast is to share our ideas and find new ways to engage with others. It dovetails great into what I want to talk about today. Right now, I have it tentatively called disconnecting. So I don't want this to just be a rehash of what we talked about in the summer about people taking summer vacations and taking time
I can't
off.
even remember what we talked about, so the chances of me rehashing anything are probably low.
But we talked about like why people don't take time off at all during the year, but we had it focused around summer vacation and time off then. But I'm thinking about like right now you have the holidays around the corner, regardless of what you celebrate and how. It's important to disconnect from work and just be present outside of work. And you and I have been talking for about 2 weeks. I think we're both in the same mindset. This time of year, toward the end of the year, gives us a chance to just relax, recharge, clear our minds. And I know I have a goal going in with January, starting fresh set of plans, fresh strategies on how to engage with a few clients, and things that have been lingering are off the checklist. Whether we finally just say, you know what, it's been there, it's just not getting anywhere, let's just move on to something new, or we call it done.
Yeah.
But to that point, every year it feels harder and harder. At least I know for me it does, to do so as technology keeps us tethered to the office. And for our case, this could be even harder for remote workers since our office is wherever we go.
Mm-hmm.
My office right now is in the basement, but there have been times lately just to get stuff done. Like after the baby and my wife go to bed, I take the laptop upstairs and just sit in the recliner and work for a couple more hours. How can you prevent work from taking you out of the moment? Because this is also the time of year where you want to be present. I think all of us as adults have memories back to our childhood, spending time with our families, our parents, and siblings. So how do you prevent yourself from being taken out of the moment so you're present there for your family now? How can you make sure to be present for, your family and friends? And as an employer, and this is something we'll wrap up with is, are there things that you can do to encourage your employees to rest and recharge, and whatever however that takes form? So there's a couple things to digest there. There's the one is just taking the time off to rest and relax. But then I think another way we can look at it too is it's a great way to also reset. Stuff that may be just lagging, stuff that is just holding on, cleaning up the to-do list and starting the year fresh. So I just diarrhea of the mouth, just let a lot out. And I kind of want to dissect each of those. So what are your thoughts?
Where do you want to start? Lots of places we can jump in there.
So let's start with just, I think the obvious thing is how can you try to shut off this time of year as we get further into December, we get closer to the holidays, we get closer to the new year, just forcing ourselves to shut off and stop with this one last minute thing I can put in.
Yeah. I think my answer is probably going to be a little bit disheartening in that if we haven't learned to do that throughout the year, we're probably not going to learn it the last 2 weeks of the year. So
that's a good point.
That may be one of the things that we take this downtime or this time we have available to us to figure out how we can build that into our schedule throughout the year. because I know that, it's a challenge, especially you called out remote work, that this can be difficult for remote workers where we don't have this physical difference between work and everything else. So it all bleeds together. But I also think it gives us a tremendous opportunity for flexibility to actually design that to work for us, but it takes deliberate effort for it to work. And it's something that I'm honestly not good at, but I'm working on. It's something I identified earlier this year, actually last year during the shutdown break. So, from a company perspective, we shut down for a couple weeks at the end of the year, and part of it is we want our employees to spend time with their families over the holidays, but it's also a great time to rest and rejuvenate. And during that time, I identified this as an issue for me. And so this year I've been trying to address it. And a couple thoughts. One, again, this is for me. I identified that it's not a momentous event type of thing. It's not a, how can I shut down over Thanksgiving break or over, Christmas end of year break? It's, how can I do that throughout the day? So when those bigger breaks come around, I'm better positioned to take advantage of those. And so a few of the things that I've been working on, and I may have mentioned it in previous episodes, is I've started, and I'm not great at it. I have a long way to go, but I've started using a Pomodoro timer to work in sprints and force myself to take the breaks that it suggests that I take between sprints. And just the act of getting up and leaving has been helpful for me. But it's also helped me in a data capture standpoint. And, this goes a little bit against my desire, lack thereof, for time tracking, which we don't do, and I would never force on anybody, but I've been doing it for myself at a high level way, because I want to understand where I am being efficient and where I'm not. And that's one of the things where I've really tried to take advantage of that time to just let my mind rest throughout the day. The challenge is for Jim, you and I, we've been conditioned to work from 8 to 5 at a desk, and then we're done, right? And we have to remove that conditioning because that's no longer our reality. But for the first, half of my career, if not more, that's how I worked. And it doesn't work like that anymore. And so I'm trying to understand, am I more a morning person? Maybe on Wednesdays I'm great in the afternoon, but Thursdays I'm horrible. I'm trying to understand that pattern, and where I'm not, I walk away. Maybe I'll go and sit down and play the piano or read a book. Or one of the things that, especially in the summer, I've been enjoying is just going out and walking in the hills. And it's amazing how just that maybe 50, 60 minutes of time completely refreshes and rests my brain. And what I've learned is by adding that structure into my day to day, it's better positioned me to then be able to say, you know what, I can walk away from this for a longer period of time. And that's what I was able to do over the Thanksgiving break. My son and I went down to San Diego, and I was really able to let go and just let it be. And in years past, I haven't been able to do that. And so I think, again, without beating a dead horse here, getting the day-to-day in line better prepare me to take advantage of these larger chunks of time that are afforded to us.
No, that's a really interesting perspective, because the other thing I was thinking of as you were talking is you make a good point. Like, this isn't like a milestone thing, and I don't want this to come across as a New Year's resolution episode. I personally am not a fan of them because, as you pointed out, that if it's not, you can't have just this overnight change. It's something that you have to be slow and working on. And that's why a lot of New Year's resolutions fail. So I don't want it to be seen as that. So that's a really good perspective. Now, for some of the work that we do, it takes like deep concentration, and it takes time to really get into thought. So one of the criticisms I could hear, from people, you talk about using, the Pomodoro timer. How do you deal with tasks that, require, a deep level of thought and the interruptions that the breaks could introduce?
So I don't see it as an interruption, and at least for me, and the schedule that I'm on, and I can't remember how many cycles I go through before it's a longer break, but it is a 25-minute cycle and then a 5-minute break, and then a 25-minute cycle and then a 5-minute break. And what I will do is I'll set up my desktop. So my desktops are clean. I'm using multiple desktops on the Mac, and I'll push everything else off, and I'll just have clean desktops, only up what I'm working on, turn off my notifications, and just work. That 5 minutes, if I know it's going to take multiple cycles, I won't get into things I know will distract me. So I'm not going to go check my email. I'm not going to check Twitter. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to get up. I'm going to walk around the house a little bit, maybe refill my water bottle, maybe grab a little snack. Sometimes I play the piano. So every once in a while I'll pick a new song I want to learn. So maybe I'll go play a few bars of a song I'm trying to learn for a few minutes and then come back, and I'm able to jump right back into where I was at. It's when I use that 5-minute break and then I get into things like email is the worst, or even Slack, where I see something and it pulls my attention. That's where I'm lost. If I go and play the piano for 5 minutes, it's just a chance to let myself break, get a breather. It's like calling a timeout in football, right? It's like I just need a few minutes to catch my breath, and then we're back to where we were. But if I allow myself to get pulled into email or something else, it's over. I'm going to have to reset back to where I was at. So that's how I've been managing it. So there are definitely things I can get done in a 25-minute cycle. There are definitely things that take 2 and 3 and sometimes more. And so to deal with it, I'll make sure I keep my focus during that break period. But the break is important to get up and not, because I can't work for 50, 90 minutes at a time without walking away. My brain just starts to turn to mush. So that 5 minutes is important. And then the last piece of learning from that is that it comes down to also how you structure things. So one of the things that I've been learning how to do is break down larger projects into more consumable chunks. So I can do it, if I can do it in one, if I can complete one piece of it in a 25-minute cycle, awesome. But there are some times where I just need a longer chunk of time, and I'll chain 2 or 3 together, but rarely will I go more than that.
So do you keep email open throughout the day, or is that something you close?
I keep it open, but I keep it in a separate desktop. So it's a matter of me building in the strength not to scroll over to that desktop to look at it. I have set times in the day where I will do that, and I just try to hold myself accountable. If I find I'm slipping on that, I'll just shut off the app and close it. But I've been pretty good at keeping it tucked away on its own desktop, and I know that there are certain times of the day where I'll scroll over to that desktop, and certain other times, especially if I'm in a Pomodoro cycle where I'm really trying to get through, 3, 4, 5 cycles in a day, that I know I'm not going to get that done if I constantly go back to the email.
Now, do you use a client, or are you just using the web browser?
Browser.
Okay.
Wait, for email?
Email, yeah.
No, I have a client.
Okay. So do you have notifications turned on? Because for me, okay, you have those turned off, because I got into the habit and then got myself out of it, where I would actually check email in the morning and try to plow through email and get to, if there's maybe 2 or 3 things I would have to follow up on later in my inbox, and then just close it out for the day. And then it would, email bookended my day. So I'd start that way and then do the same thing at the end of the day. And it was great, but then it slowly started to creep back in, checking it throughout the day. And then I noticed about 2 weeks ago, boom, it's open right there. Email's back open again, and it's open throughout the day. And I'm like, yep, son of a bitch, it's back.
It's just so hard because, for people like you and I, we see something, we're like, oh, I can, fix that real quick or help add something there. But if you add it as part of your cycle, then I think it's okay, whether it's at multiple times during the day. To me, it's just about being deliberate about when you're going to do that and not letting it pull your attention. So for me, almost exclusively every day starts with a 25-minute cycle, Pomodoro cycle, where it's email triage or Slack triage, whatever. So I go through all of my messaging, and I go through it and I say, okay, is this something that I can address in this 25-minute cycle? If so, I do it. If not, I use the rest of that cycle to organize it into things that I'm going to do either later today in a cycle or sometime this week, or in the future. And I'll kind of triage the inbox at that for that first cycle of the day. And then I'll have a more extended break somewhere in the middle of the day where I'll go and see if there's anything burning and critical. For me, where I'm dealing with sales contracts and a lot of things that are time sensitive, I don't feel comfortable just looking at it in the day and then letting it go until tomorrow or even later in the night. So I do a check at some point in the middle of the day. But again, I think for me, doing that deliberately is completely fine. It doesn't pull away. The problem I have is if I have notifications on, if I scroll over to it and I'm in the middle of a thought process where it robs my time.
Yeah, because like right now I do have notifications turned on. So if if I'm sitting there working, that little red 1 or the little red 2 that pops up, I've got to go look.
Yeah. So I have turned off all notifications by default for everything. So social networks, email, Slack, and I'll have set times of the day where I'll go and check that. The breaks are a good time for me to do that as long as I'm not trying to chain multiple cycles together. If I'm doing one project in a cycle and then I take a break, part of that break, just checking in on things to make sure nothing is needing my attention right now is a great time to do that, because I know I'm going to move on to something where I have to reset my context anyway. And we talked about this on an episode a long time ago. One of the biggest hacks, is it a hack? I don't know, that I did that helped from a shutting off and a productivity standpoint is I have my application bar to auto hide.
Oh, the dock in the bottom?
The dock in the bottom of of my OS set to auto hide. And that little change has been amazingly productive because, I do have, so while I don't have push notifications when emails come in, if I do go down to my dock, I do see, number of emails I have, like missed texts, things like that. And that drives me crazy to see that I have things that are unaddressed there. But the simple act of having that hidden, again, if I have the strength not to roll my mouse down there to unhide it, it was a huge change for me. It it completely changed the way I work because now I no longer have any desire to scroll down there and look at it unless, I'm in between things.
Interesting. So, all of these things you were saying are, little ways that you did, just through your regular course of action. So when the bigger breaks come up, it's easier to disconnect. So like over Thanksgiving, did you check email at all, or did you basically just keep it closed and just were kind of doing your thing?
I checked email once a day.
Okay.
I didn't necessarily take action on it. So again, I checked it once a day to see if there was anything critical that needed to be addressed. Again, there are lots of things from a time sensitive perspective that, for right or wrong, I put on my shoulders, whether it's sales contracts, making sure employees are getting paid, all of those things. So I definitely kept a pulse on it, but I made a conscious choice not to respond to anything unless it was absolutely critical.
So I want to ask one more question, and then I want to kind of start to pivot it, a bit. With being much more disciplined about email, because one of the things that email has created is it's a tether where people expect when you send an email there's going to be an immediate reply. Now, I'm not saying going dark for a week, but this has happened several times in the last couple of weeks, and it's kind of one of those things that pushed me to walk away from the computer before I said things I didn't want to say or I shouldn't have said, or shouldn't say. And it's someone sends an email and maybe it goes a day without being answered. I try to get back to people within 24 to 36 hours after an email sent. But there's been those times, an email sent and then there's the immediate, maybe within 12 hours or less than a day goes by. And then there's hey, did you see this? Or we need your answer. Or there's that, trying to be disciplined about email. How do you prevent yourself from kind of losing it when those kind of things happen?
It's a great question, and it's something that I'm still working on. And I don't know if my approach is the right approach, but I try to, um, depending on what the cutoff is, sometime in the late afternoon, 5 or 6 o'clock. If I get an email during the day prior to that 5 or 6 o'clock time frame, um, I try to exclusively, and I'm not perfect at it. You and I saw a example where I didn't do this, but I try to reply to 100% of those emails. If I get an email between 6 o'clock at night and 7 o'clock in the morning, I try to 100% reply to those emails in the morning. By reply, I don't mean solve the problem or give the answer. By reply, again, during my triage or at night before I close down, if I can answer it right there within a 25-minute cycle, I will absolutely do it because I just want it off of my plate. I don't want to be the person that picks up the thing 5 times before I action something that takes 2 minutes. If I 2 minutes, I'm going to do it. If it's going to take longer than that, then my reply is to set expectations. Got your email. Here's where I'm at. Expect to hear back from me Friday. That doesn't always solve the problem, but in 90+% of at least my cases, it does, right? Just acknowledging, especially again, one of the struggles of remote and maybe not even remote, just not being visible, even if you're in a big company and in different buildings or different floors, this is a problem, is that when you send something electronically, you don't have any immediate feedback that it was received. And so there's always that, okay, well, what's going on? Did Jim get it? Like, I don't know, like I'm freaking out. But it's simple, got your message, understand your request. Here's when you can expect to hear back. More often than not, sets that anxiety at ease. So that's how I address it. If I can do it in a couple minutes, done. Get it out of the way. If it's going to take longer than that and I need to include it in one of my future Pomodoro cycles, then I'll reply during one of my triage sessions and let them know, got your email, got your message. Here's when you can expect to hear back from me.
Cool. So one of the things you and I have talked about in recent weeks is also using this time to not just like relax and recharge and disconnect from the office, but also use it as a bit of a reset. So trying to get lingering things off the list, trying to get things that maybe aren't going anywhere off the list, stuff that can be done. So you start January fresh, because I think a lot of us at this point are kind of just, all right, we're ready for the year to be done. We're ready to go celebrate, and don't want to just pick up where we left off in January. We want to look at it as a fresh start to maybe tackle some new goals, or again, I don't want to say goals because that gives us the ability, the feeling of a New Year's resolution, but like say new milestones or new things that we want to achieve. What are some of the things that you're doing to try to close out the year? And just overall, what are your thoughts on that? Kind of using this time as a milestone in and of itself to close things out, knock things off the list, and then start fresh with a new strategy in January.
Yeah, so I mean, so much of what we do, there just really isn't a good breaking point, and in any breaking point would kind of be arbitrary. But for me, setting some end dates where I can feel comfortable walking away for a couple weeks is important. So taking a look at the things that I've committed to, things that are going to definitely run over into next year, and saying, what's a reasonable place for me to get to? And when's a reasonable time to get to that, so that I can allow myself the opportunity to walk away from that. And one of the things that I've learned over the years is not to set that date the day before we're going to leave for vacation or shut down. That has been a recipe for disaster, because then it's like this run up and you have all this other stuff that's competing for your attention, and it makes those last few days, very hellish. So what I've tried to do is set a date. So let's say, I don't know, I can't remember when we're shutting down this year, but for me, my date is the 13th. right? Like that's the day next Friday that I'm shooting to say, everything that I have ongoing right now, I'm going to look to kind of put on ice by the 13th. I'm still going to be working the week of the 15th, 16th, but it's really going to be a transitionary time for me that week. So how can I use that week to start to transition into using some downtime to be more productive from a rest and relaxation perspective? And from your question, from the ability to really take stock of what did I do this year? What am I proud of from an accomplishment standpoint? What have I learned about how I work, and what can I do better? And what things do I want to work on myself for next year? And that really helps define, again, it's not a resolution, it's not a goal per se, but the things that I want to focus on becoming better at next year. That's where I really want to start making that transition from work into that mindset. So for me, again, having a clear stopping point of projects that don't have a clear stopping point, setting it before the day that we leave on break, and then using that week prior to kind of be a transitionary point to start to shift my mindset to prepare myself to really take advantage of that, those couple weeks to really shut down and focus on, what have I done that I feel good about, and what things do I want to work on to become better at.
Yeah, it's interesting you kind of give that timeline, because I was talking to Bryant earlier, and I was setting the same expectation with him just internally, trying to get everything done in the next week and a half that I can, and then using that the week of the 16th as a planning week. So there's part of it is just taking notes so I know where things have left off, closing out the things that need to be closed out, and then what's the plan? Where are we kicking off at when we get back on January 2nd? Where, what are the key things we want to start working toward?
Yeah, and I think another important thing to call out, especially for those of us that work in services, is to proactively communicate with the clients that we work with. Now, many of them will be doing the same, but a lot of them don't have the opportunity afforded to them that we have to shut down. And so, properly communicating and putting their concerns and anxieties at ease is also incredibly important to being able to put your mind at ease to use that downtime. Because if we don't do that, we can prepare all we want, but then we're thinking, what's so-and-so thinking about, or are they going to message me and they're going to be freaking out? So, taking that opportunity to set that proper expectation, again, especially if you work in services, is really, really important. And I had another thought and I completely lost my train of thought. Had it was
gone. Have you ever had a situation where you get a phone call over that break, like it's like you need to drop everything and come back into work?
Yeah.
And how'd you respond?
I did it.
You did it.
I think
I may be thinking of what you're thinking about.
I think it's a balance. Because there have definitely been times in the past where there were items that would put the company in a much better financial standpoint and provide me a lot of ease about where we're at from a growth and a revenue perspective, where maybe I could have been a little stronger and said nope, that's going to have to wait. But from my position where I feel personally responsible for cutting the check every 2 weeks for our employees, there have definitely been things where I've made the decision that it's more important for me to walk away from this break to do this because of what it's going to provide in the future. Doing that all the time and every year, not good. I've become much better about picking and choosing where to do that, but there have definitely been times, and I think there will be times in the future where that happens as well. I think it's important to be flexible. I think it's important to plan and set expectations, but I also think it's important to not be so rigid that you can't make informed decisions to change that if needed. But again, the word, and really from a company standpoint, what we've been focused on all year is being deliberate in everything we do. As long as we're being deliberate about doing that and not just letting the emotion or the moment pull us into something, then I think it's okay. It's where we're not deliberate about it and we just Pavlovian response instinctively say, you know what, I have to do this. That's where we tend to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is the first company I've worked for that actually has this like end of year shutdown. Now, I mean, there have been times where I've taken off that time, you know, had the time off to take it or take the majority of it, and you know, and had many colleagues who did the same thing, but still the company was open.
Mm-hmm.
Have you gotten any feedback from clients like, what do you mean you're going to be gone for almost 2 weeks?
The biggest feedback I get from clients is I wish our company did that.
Okay, that's
No, I
interesting.
mean, I think because of the way that we work and we're not a reactionary company, we're not a support company. The things that we work on with our clients are very well thought out and planned out and strategic in nature, that not only at the end of the year, but throughout the year, just, you know, we've had employees take extended breaks to do all sorts of things throughout the year. And I can't think of one time where it's caused a problem. And the reason for that is that we are very proactive in planning to ensure that the things that we're trying to accomplish with our customers is not put at risk. And I think they feel that, right? And so if that wasn't the case and we said, oh, by the way, we're going to be shut down for 2 weeks at the end of the year, they'd be like, what the hell? Well, we're trying to do this. It's never come up, right? Because again, we've been proactive in planning, and it's not about spending this time on this day. It's okay, where are we going to try to get to by what time, what date? And that's really what's helped dictate that. And it's never been a problem. Again, end of year or any other time throughout the year. And we've encouraged people to take it. And, you know, I learned the whole shutdown thing from my time at Omniture. They shut down over the 4th of July or 24th of July, I can't remember. And then also over Christmas to force employees to take that time off because employees weren't taking time off. So I learned the importance of saying, you know what, we need to take it off. And one of the big reasons people don't is because you can take extended time off, but everyone else is still working. You come back and your inbox is overwhelmed. But if the whole company's off, we don't, you know, feel as bad about it. It's like we're all doing this together. But beyond that, we've really been encouraging for people to take time off. You know, Bryant took an extended backpacking trip through southern Utah. I can't remember. You had a trip that you went on as well around your wedding and other things, where you took some extended period of time off. We've really tried to make everyone at the company feel comfortable in doing that, because almost exclusively everything we do has the long term in mind. And the long term, we know that that's a winning strategy. If our goal was to maximize every quarter, I think our philosophy is a lot different. And, you know, Jim comes to me and says, oh, by the way, I'm taking like 10 days off. I'm like, oh, hell no, you're not. Like, we got a lot of stuff we got to get done this quarter. But our game is the long game. And we know over the long haul that 10 days is nothing. In fact, it's everything, though, over the long haul. And that's going to make you, you know, a more productive employee or a happier employee. You know, you're going to drive more value for the company. So over the long run, all those things make much more sense.
And it's funny because that was going to be my next question, or at least kind of like the piece to start wrapping it up is like, how do you encourage people to do that? You know, how do you say, and I mean, again, resting and recharging can be multiple different things. It could be still getting the laptop out and just working on a little hack project when no one's around to bother you. And that could be rest and relaxation in and of itself.
You picked up a little electronics project to hack on one break, didn't you?
Yeah, 2 years ago, you got me one of those Arduino kits, and then I ended up going out and buying a Raspberry Pi, and then I built a retro gaming system out of a Raspberry Pi.
Those things could be fun. So,
oh yeah,
I mean, that's part of it, right? Like, I've thought about it, and I think, you know, what can I do for Jim that's going to help him shift his mind to something else? And I sent you the Arduino, and because I was doing something similar, I'm like, this is a good distraction. So sometimes it's physically, you know, helping employees find a distraction. And the other part of it is just trust. I think a big reason why people don't take the time they need is lack of trust. And I have to show face and be in the office. Otherwise I'm going to not get this promotion or this bonus or whatever I want. It's that, we trust our employees to do the right thing, to take care of themselves so that they can take care of our customers. And again, my goal is to have you here for years and years to come, not quarters and quarters to come.
The churn and burn.
Yeah. And so in order to do that, I have to have our employees taking care of themselves. So beyond just, kind of giving them a nudge with an Arduino or some other project, it's really about just talking to them individually and as a group to say, you have my trust, and this is important for us. And I need you to do it. One of the things I've struggled with is leading by example, because I think I've been the worst person to take time away, but I think that's also important for a leader to take time away to say, I can be an example. If I'm telling everyone to do it, but then I'm not doing it, it's like, well, wait a minute, I'm getting a double message here. So over the past couple of years, I've tried to be a little better at doing that as well.
Yeah, I remember when I first joined, like you were online constantly.
Yeah, and it's hard, when it's your baby and you feel personally responsible for it. It's hard to walk away because there's, if I walk away, it's not like someone else is going to pick it up, right? And so that for me has been very difficult. But I've had to learn. I have a business partner that will absolutely cover for me. We have great employees that will absolutely step in. But the reality is I was probably too much overvaluing my value at times, saying, if I'm not here, this isn't going to work. And it wasn't true, And so it was convincing myself that I could walk away for a little bit of time and everything would be okay. But that's hard. It takes a lot of trust, going back to trust. It takes a lot of trust to do that.
And we always seem to come back to trust.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it Dan Roden where we talked trust culture?
Yeah, that was a good episode.
It was. And you're right. I mean, having trust is a huge component to all this, because we can talk about, structure and having companies shut down and providing all this stuff. But if there's no trust, it's still not going to be as valuable as it could be.
Yeah. So to start wrapping things up, or at least, to wrap things up, any plans to do anything over the break? Like anything fun planned?
I don't have anything planned. I'm just gonna chill. I'd like to find a fun little project to work on. So whether it's electronics with the Arduino, there's a bunch of Arduino projects I would love to get into. So I may be looking for some project ideas, or I like coding just for coding's sake, and so sometimes I'll find just a fun little project to code on that has nothing to do with anything, and it's just a release. So I may do something around that, but other than that, I don't have any real formal plans. What about you?
I mean, we stay local during the holidays. The majority of both of our families are in this area. So like we have stuff planned with, various bits of the family, throughout the period of time. Like, Christmas Eve, we'll go up to my sister's house. Christmas Day, we'll spend here. And I think both of our parents are going to come over before we go out to see some of my wife's cousins. And then we'll head up to Connecticut for a day to see my wife's brother. They live up there. So I mean, for the most part, it's staying local. One of the mistakes we did last year was like trying to see some of like the various holiday sites around the city. So we live in the suburbs, but like getting into the city and seeing those, we waited until the last minute when everybody was deciding to do that. So we actually decided to start doing it earlier. So like yesterday, I took time off. She took a personal day from work, and we took the baby, went down to Center City, Philadelphia to see
awesome. Yeah,
all the various
photos.
Her cousin works for Comcast, so she gave us a tour of the technology center. So cool. Seeing the city from the 42nd floor was really amazing.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do that too, is trying to intersperse some of the various festivities earlier in the month, so we're not fighting crowds to do so. But yeah, other than that, like I've also told her, I'm like, I just want to chill out. Like there's times where I reach a limit of dealing with people, and I'm just like, I just want to just chill out and be a bit of a homebody for a little bit and just rest and recharge.
That sounds awesome. Do you do the Feast of the Seven Fishes or any traditional Italian stuff around Christmas?
My mother-in-law does.
Does she?
So that will be, she actually does that the day before Christmas Eve. So the 23rd is when she does that, just because like there's so many things going on Christmas Eve. She moved it, but yes, the holiday gorging starts on the 23rd, because then we'll go to my sister's, who has a massive spread out, and it just goes from there. So
nice. But
yeah, we definitely do that.
One of the things that I've been trying to do, and I will try again this year, is a bagna cauda.
What's that?
Oh, it's a lovely dish. So growing up, it's one of the things that I remember the most about Italian Christmas is, so the bagna cauda is a hot bath. It's basically butter, oil, and garlic. And it's kind of like fondue. That's your dip, and you have things like pieces of bread and lettuce and vegetables, and you dip it. You kind of all gather around the table and dip it into this butter garlic goodness. And anchovies. So butter, oil, garlic, anchovies. It's amazing. And I remember that growing up as kind of the thing. And the last couple of years, I've tried to start the tradition again small with my family, and it's taken a little bit of prodding to get them going, but I'm going to keep trying it every year to see if I can get something going with that.
That is awesome. I may have to mention that to my mother-in-law and see if maybe she can add that to the stuff.
It's I miss delicious
as a kid that my grandfather made. So my grandfather, my dad's father, was Irish. The Italian comes in from my grandmother. She was the short little Italian woman. But one of the things my grandfather picked up was the Italian stuffed olives. So like the big green olives stuff with like locatelli and a bunch of other stuff.
Blue cheese.
Yes. And I mean, they're an acquired taste. It's a very, very strong taste. So it takes some time to get used to. But like he would bring them to Christmas morning. And like if you weren't there, you were shit out of luck. So after he passed, a couple people tried it, but it takes so much work. No one's really picked it back up, and I wish someone would, because I miss them. I mean, I can still taste them thinking about them.
So delicious. My grandpa was Northern Italian, and any time of the year I went over there were always a spread of green olives. Like it seems like, it was like maybe the chewing tobacco. It's like he always had a green olive, and if it wasn't the green olive that was stuffed, it was a green olive that was pitted and was stuck on that pit for hours. And I am a fan of the green olive for sure.
Yeah.
Now I'm hungry, and I'm looking forward to some memorable food from years past.
Yeah. So cool. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up for now. This was pretty fun.
Yeah, fun episode, and hope you enjoy your holiday break and let things go, recharge.
Yep, same to you. So all right, I will catch you later.
All right, bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of 33 Tangents. If you enjoyed what you heard, please rate and review the show on your favorite podcast aggregator so others can find us. If you would like to reach us, you can do so by emailing podcast@33sticks.com or on the web at 33tangents.33sticks.com. 33 Tangents is a production of 33 Sticks, an analytics boutique.